I spent years looking at people's qualifications in terms of when they passed at university and what they were at. One of the things that dominates the sort of thing that people do is they actually study philosophy. I didn't really understand why. And all I could think of is that they were at university making friends with their peers and joining clubs and drinking. And what else did they do? They may have been building up a fan club or a group of peers into a social network. Only then I discovered something slightly different. Lately, I must admit, I've come across this kind of, I'm not quite sure of the pronunciation, there's a family called the Kardashians or something. And what they've done is they've evolved a familial notoriety to build up a fan club. Millions of people look at what they do every day. And it isn't just a daughter or a father or a son, it's a whole family. And they've developed even a television program. And from this has evolved a very nice way of making money, which to a certain extent is how I evaluate success. If you look nowadays at any of these successful television people, they all have built a social network. And anything from 100 to 1 million people are watching them and what they do. And they are fulfilling a part of our society. Our society requires feedback or joining or having a feel that you're part of the success. Now, if we go back to what I started with by saying an accidental result of education, by studying the philosophy, it's by studying a way of thinking. And there can be lots of different ways of thinking. And what we're saying there is there are enough people out there who might take a major interest, become major supporters of that mode of thought. When I was at school, it's nice to say at school, it's kind of a university place. There was around the corner from the school, it was this marvellous strip club. And my gang, and I had formulated a kind of nice, tight, social 8 or 9 friends who spent every night having a drink together and having a chat. Just friends, before we kind of somehow made it home. They actually, 1 or 2 of them, had tried to get into the strip club and was chucked out on the basis of police, or perhaps they were not the sort of people that the strip club was looking for to become regular attenders. It's not something I was really attracted in going to. But when I discovered that my gang had a slight problem, of course, naturally enough, I instantly solved it. I went to the club and said they were turning down 8 good punters who might be 4 or 5 times a week in spending money. And because I was, shall we say, so honest, I took my friends in, and for the rest of the year, there was 2 things that happened. Number 1, it reinforced my position as social leader of the group. And number 2, we always knew what we were doing after lunch every day was going around to the strip club and having a beer. It might have been slightly expensive, but it was the sort of thing that everybody had thoroughly enjoyed. How to turn something into a positive reaction. What's the philosophy? How do you do it? Well, you examine what the problem is. I mean, my success in understanding what was needed and what was successful hasn't been 100%. I don't know about you. In 1961, I was offered the United Kingdom on a plate. by two young chaps with a degree had come down from university, and they were starting a new company in New York, and they said I could have the United Kingdom. I didn't quite understand, and it was something they invented called Clubman's Club. In England at that time, if you wanted to go to a nightclub or if you wanted to go to anything after 11 o'clock, you had to join the club. And these Americans had come across the idea of, why don't you join a clubman's club? It sounded very much like the mafia to me, so I turned it down. Two likely lads from Cambridge went over the next year, picked up England, and sold their clubman's club 6 years later for 7 million. And that was a lot of money in 1965. It's always struck with me that sometimes we look at a gold mine and don't see it. So, getting back to where I started, the accidental result of education or teaching is the philosophy as a degree. Why? Just think for a few minutes. If the philosophy is the realization there's a gain, then that's really where you want to be. But you have to recognize and look at all parts of it, and don't just bring your prejudice to it.